soda. When we boys they know us. All fast money, no slow bucks.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Slim Reacts. I'm back in another video. Today's gonna be a little bit of a different one. Today I'm gonna be doing this for all my people who sub for the train content. I'm gonna be doing a my Train Sim World, wish list for Train Sim World 6 and beyond. Now this is only gonna be US content because I feel like there's not enough US content in the game and they don't really focus on it much. But anyways, here's the slideshow that I may present. They got a couple, it's not too many things on here, it's not something crazy, but obviously this is, there's obviously more stuff that I would like to have added, but this is like, I think the main things that I like to have added to routes. First up, now I'm from Massachusetts, obviously there's going to be a lot of MBTA stuff here, I'm a little biased. But first up, we got the MBTA commuter Needham branch DLC, right, will be priced at $30. Normally their DLC is priced at $40. But this is a branch route, so it branches off the Northeast corridor and it's only like a 6-mile route, so that's why the price is lower. Here's some screenshots from Train Sim Classic route that one of my friends made right here. So you have Needham Heights Terminus Station. This is looking sort of that's direction. Here's Forest Hills, the orange line, Yard, Needham Junction. This is somewhere in Needham right here along the you can see the scenic right here, Hersey Station in the Rosendale Village. So here's what the route would look like. Here's an idea. And as for the engines, they will just be recycled content from Boston, Providence, and Boston and Worcester. So you have the HSP and the Rotoms 2000 through 2039, 1800, 1827, 800, 846. So this is the original Rotom batch. And then you have also the F43Cs with the exception of the PHM 2Cs 1025 to 1036, which they could just fix that as a numbering issue, because currently in the game they have 1050 through 1075. They'll just have to go in the scripts and add 1025 through 1036 as possible numbers. That's not really a big deal. And you have obviously the 1500 series right here, cab car. So this is the Needham branch right here. This is my propulsion. I don't think it would be too hard. It's a pretty short line. It's already in Train Sim Classic. It's not really that hard to recreate, honestly. Just all you gotta do is just make the map and just recycle content. So if you already own the HSP 46 and the F40, you should be straight. And here's the map of the route, as you can see right here. These are the stations right here. So it's not that short. It branches off here and you have all these stations here. You can pause and see that. Next up, we have a north side line, which there's already technically 3. You have the Stoughton branch, the Providence branch, and then you have Worcester, Framingham. So I feel like a north side branch is definitely overdue. MBTA commuter north side Lowell line, $40 DLC because this is a longer route. Here's Lowell Station. You have North Station, which is the terminus, both terminus right here. Anderson RTC, and then here you have sort of the Somerville right here, where the commuter road passes the green line and it runs side by side. There's a good amount of freight that you can run on here. Needham line, there's no freight, obviously, but the low line you can run CSX, so maybe if you own like CSX equipment, they'll just layer over. I feel like that would be pretty cool. Now the rolling stock, we're going to have the GP40MC, specifically the rebuilt ones, the MC-3, so 1138, 1117, 1129, with the E-bells and all that stuff, LED lights. Here's the numbering right here. And then you would have the Kawasaki's, which are the CTC4s, which used to be steel bells and all that. But you have 1700, 1724. These run on the north side primarily, these Kawasaki's. As for the bi-levels, you only have the old 900 bi-levels that run mostly on the north side, and you have some on south side. Once they get all the new Rotoms in from through 2027, then they could move all these 700 series up north. So it shouldn't be too hard because they're pretty similar to the Rotoms. Same with these GP40s have similar components to the F40, so it wouldn't be too hard. But yeah, didn't mean to do that. And then for the Downeaster service, you can obviously run Amtrak from North Station to Anderson RTC and through Wilmington Station, and branches off on the Wildcat branch. they could just have the ACS 64 and the athletes from Boston Providence, fill in for the Downeaster services. And then here's the map of the Lowell line, as you can see, the Haverhill line. So past Wilmington, there's a Wildcat branch. The Amtrak Downeaster service goes to the Haverhill line, and you have Haverhill line, and then North Station, Anderson, RTC, and whatnot. So it's a pretty solid line. There's a good amount of freight, Amtrak, MBTA. It's a pretty quick line. The Needham line is has a 60 miles per hour speed limit max, and it does that for decent chunk of the route. And then the Lowell line obviously is a 79 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour, 60. It's a pretty fast route. It's a good route. I think perfectly it would fit the train sim world sort of theme, I guess, if you will. And then we have some sounds right here. So I'm going to open these up. This is just a preview of what the content. So here's the GP40, right? So here you have some GP40 sounds. Like, for example, they could just layer over the Boston Worcester engine and HEP sounds. So for example, you have the engine idle. That's with the HEP. That's how it would start. But for example, that's the 645 E3. And then you have obviously the HEP engines, which would sound like this with the fans running, the cooling fans. So there's your HEP. So they could just layer over, they could just copy over the engine sounds from the Boston Worcester F40 and the HEP. They use pretty much the same exact HEP and engine with the addition of the cooling fan that you can clearly hear on the GP40. And then the horn, sorry, I forgot to go through the horn, but the bell is just obviously going to be an E-bell, so we know how that sounds. And then you have the horn here, so that's an exterior shot, but here's what the horn was. I feel like that sounds very Train Sim World-esque. And then obviously you have the Kawasaki's, E-bells, whatnot. There's a sample right there, E-bell, whatnot. You have the door chimes, so you have...
Caution, the doors are about to close.
The Kawasaki's use that one right there, and you have extras. You have the air conditioners, how the inside ambient noise, which would sound on those K cars right there, and you have obviously the horns. Just take a horn sample. Here's the interior horn. And then you have the exterior horn right here, which is the same thing, just not muffled. I like these horns. They sound really good. So there's those two. Now, next up, we have, this is an optional feature. The MBTA commuter Fall River, New Bedford. I really like to see these lines in game because they just got rebuilt and they're fast. You can run 79 miles per hour. It would utilize the Middleborough Lakeville branch before it would split off. You can run Cape Flyer services through here if you wanted to. I know there's some reskins in the game from coaches, but this would be either a $40 or $50 DLC just because how much work they would have to put into the longest, I think, MBTA line, respectively 55 miles for the Fall River and 60 for New Bedford. That's why the DLC price is going to be so high. And so here's, you have Fall River, New Bedford. You have the new Middleborough station, and then you have Myrick's Junction where the two lines split. And then here you have the updated HSPs with updated sounds, right? Because it's not perfect. They're missing some sounds, which I'll get to soon. And you have the new ROTEMs, 1828 through 1870, and then 847 through 886. This is what they would look like here. You have the new split window design, which I'm not a fan of. It makes it harder to rail fan. Let's say if you're like doing a cab ride, you're trying to look and see the engineer operate the train, trying to see through the front. It makes it harder to record. You're gonna have to like hold the camera. But that's the new coaches right there. they wouldn't have to change much. Just change the numbers and just change the door design. It's pretty much the same thing as the original Rotoms. Here's the map. Fall River, New Bedford. As you can see. So here's the Middleborough station. They could have Lakeville station there, whatever. East Taunton, Myricks Junction, and then you have the branches right there respectively. And then the Rotom sounds. So here are the Rotom sounds. Should be like this sort of warped. No, I'm tripping. So there's different bells in here. I'm not going to go through all these, but it would be an E-bell, but it would kind of be like a warped E-bell, which I might show later. And here's obviously the Rotom door sounds. They already have them in the game.
Caution, the door is about to close.
They're already in the game, so you can just implement that over. And then here's the horn. That's one sample. They could just carry over the exact same horn. They use the exact same horns. They could just copy them over. I have all these here. I'm not trying to go through all these, but they would sound the exact same as the Boston Providence, Boston Worcester. HSP sounds pretty self-explanatory. I linked a YouTube video just because I don't have a recording yet of the new sounds that are in my game. But basically, right, if you want to skip ahead here, that's the original Train Sim World. So you have the new ones here. That's some exterior. So yeah, this is Chris Smith's sound mod right here. If they can implement that, that'll be really cool into the updated HSPs. The F40s could also be updated to include the traction motor sounds, which you don't hear. Let's see if I can find a traction motor sound, because those are a key part of the F40s. Specifically on 1075 was one of these videos that I saw here. But yeah, you can hear the traction motors really clearly on these F40s, as you can see. So if you heard that sort of whine sound, that's the traction motors. Let me play it again. Kind of goes like, that's the traction motor sound. So if they can implement those into the game, make the game 10 times better. I don't know why I sounded like that. And yeah, so next up we have, this is an optional feature because they have the lower line here. Now you can add an extension to Boston to Brunswick for the Downeaster route. They've built a Portland subdivision route already. This was like old, like 10 years ago. So implementing this wouldn't be too hard. It's more of a longer scenic route, so it would take some time. That's why it's optional / feature. You have North Station. You have Portland, Maine. You have Brunswick, which is the terminus, and then you have Durham, UNH. You have the P42 DC, the NPCU, and the AM Fleet 1 as content for this route. AM Fleet 1s, they could just copy them over from Boston, Providence, and just remove the northeast corridor, logo off the cafe car. Here's the map of the route, as you can see. So yeah, it runs along the coast. P42 DC sounds, I'll just quickly go through these here. So you have obviously the E-bell. I'm sure there'll be mods out there for steel bells that they can include, but most of the stuff uses electric bells. So there you go, there's the E-bell, and then you have steel bell there, but here I have horns. So shoot, I should play this one right here. So this is the interior horn sample. It's more of an aggressive style, and then here's the exterior. It's the same thing, just louder, not muffled. It's less muffled. And as for engine sounds, they could pretty much use the HSP engine sounds. Are pretty similar. They have the same prime mover. NPCU sounds, now you have, they're just F40s that are deactivated. They don't have a prime mover in them. So there's the NPCU horn. It's not my horn. These are examples that I use from other people. So shout out to them. And then you have obviously the bell sounds, which are steel bells because they're retired F40s. So let's give it a minute. Has to load. There you go. So EMD steel cast bell K5 LA horns. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up here we have a Worcester to Springfield DLC. There's already Boston Worcester. If they can layer this on and make this all one route, they can use the route, teleportation, where you can route hopping. They can utilize that for this. They already have this route in Train Sim Classic, but it's like based in the 50s, so they can just base it off that. Here's Springfield Station, and then you have Palmer, Massachusetts. I couldn't really find any pictures of the line itself, but it would go from Worcester to Springfield. I don't believe there's any stations along the way like that. But yeah, so they can reuse the P42 DC from, you know, the this route right here. Just recycle the content. And then you'd have Viewliner 1 with the baggage, and the Amfleet 2s, which have the one door here. Pretty self-explanatory. Build Lakeshore Limited consists there. And here's a map of the route. Oh, yep. So here's a map of the route right here. So we run from Worcester, which is here, to Springfield. I don't really think there's stations along Worcester. Springfield, you have, you know, it's like more like a mountainy run, a lot of twists and turns, whatnot. Next up, this one is highly requested within the community, another Northeast Corridor extension, so Providence to New Haven. There already is a Boston to New Haven route that was made for Train Sim Classic. This can just be layered on. You have New Haven, you have Kingston, Rhode Island, you got 150 miles per hour train service, Wickford Junction, which can be the terminus of the commuter rail, and you have New London here. Now, all these three, the Acela, the ACX 64, and the Amfleet 1, can just be recycled from Boston Providence. They can reuse it. And you have the M8 EMUs. Shouldn't be too hard. They're already in Train Sim Classic. They wouldn't be, you know, too hard to add. This I did not add the price for, which this would just be a standard like $40, you know, DLC. 39. I don't know why I forgot to add that. But yeah, it's a really scenic route. A lot of high speed. Pretty cool. Here's a map. As you can see, Kingston, Westerly, Mystic, New London, Old Saybrook, New Haven. And you have stations in between for the CT rail, whatnot. Next up, Miami West Palm Beach. It's already in Train Sim Classic. Most of these already are. You have the West Palm Beach Station, Miami Amtrak Station. Oops, I don't know what I just did there. Let's go back. And then you have Miami Airport Station. Then you have Fort Lauderdale. You can recycle the P42 again from the other two routes I just mentioned. Viewliner 1 baggage, you can recycle those as well from Boston, you know, Worcester, Springfield. And you have the Amfleet 2, recycle those as well. So this is all going to be recycled. They can just reuse them, you know, so they don't have to do, you know, separate locomotives for each route. And this is continued. Obviously, you have the commuter services, the BL36PH, F40PH, and the Bombardier cab cars. So here's the map of the route. Miami West Palm Beach. As you can see, let's just give it a second to load here. So you'd have services running to Mangonia Park, basically, which is one stop north of West Palm Beach. And yeah, they have express trains here too, which I didn't even know that. So that's pretty cool to run express services. Here's some F40 sounds that I just saved on here. So engine sounds, you'd have, you know, the 645 idle. So these are F40PH-3s. And then you have the HEP, which is just going to be like a cat generator, sounds similar to like the MBTA. Right there, it's this MBTA sound. And then you have exterior sounds. So for example, horn sounds, specifically to tri-rail. I think these are P5 horns. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. Just give it a second. That horn sounds so godly. And then you obviously have the E-bell. Here's that warped E-bell I was talking about with the new Rotoms. They sound like this. They sound a bit different to them. I don't know how to explain it. Here's the exterior. You can hear it better here. So you would find those on the newer Rotoms. They sound like warped or whatever the hell. And then lights, yeah, so these have the halogen lights. They don't have LED lights. Next up, we have the Chicago Racetrack. Again, these are literally from Train Sim Classic, so they could just port that over. You have the F40PH, the NS bi-level car. You can recycle the P42 DCs from the other routes that I mentioned. Same with the Amfleet 1 and 2s. And the Viewliners with baggage. You can run Lakeshore Limited services, stuff like that. Wolverine, whatever, is based off of Chicago Union. As you can see, here's a map of the route. And obviously I'll get to, locomotives as well. It's not just routes, but here's the route itself. So we'll get to locomotive add-ons as well. So we have one more, which is the Pacific Surfliner. It's already in Train Sim Classic, as you can see. They can recycle the P42 DC, the Amfleets and Viewliners with the baggage. You can run services. I don't know exactly what they run from there, but I'll have to do my research, obviously. Let me just copy and paste this here so just so I can have it. Okay. And then you have obviously the Charger, which is going to be new. And then you have the, I wouldn't say Superliner, but the Surfliner cars, which are pretty similar. The Chargers, they have the K5LA horns, hybrid, similar to the ACS 64s. They have E-bells. And then the cab cars have these EMD steel bells, mechanical bells with K5LAs. Here's a map of the route right here. So they can have LA to San Diego. And then if they want, they can extend it up north to San Luis, which there's already a route in a Train Sim Workshop that it does that already. So they can take a look at that. Here's locomotives, US only again, just because there's not a lot of US content. Now we have the MBTA commuter Blast from the Past. This is, I feel like, a naming scheme that they could use. You have the MP36 locomotives, which they already have them in the game for Caltrain and Metrolink. Wouldn't be too hard to make the MBTA. They're slightly different, obviously. How they're pretty similar to the Caltrain ones. Sounds are pretty much the exact same. They have 010 and 011, which are two the MBTA runs. You have the CTC-1 Bombardiers right here, numbered 1600 to 1652. 1600 through like 20 are deactivated, but doesn't matter. They can just number them that way. And then you have the BTC 600 through 653. This is what they would look like. Yeah, adding the 200 series would be more work because they look a little different. On the inside, they're refurbished. They look like the Rotoms. And then having the 300 series, which are also Bombardier, if I'm not mistaken. They look pretty much the exact same as the 600s. Here are some MP36 sounds. As for the CTC-1 sounds, the Bombardier sounds, they could just port over Boston and Worcester cab car sounds from the CTC-3, which uses the CTC-1 sounds. So they can just port those over. And yeah, it'll just fit right in. These are not in service anymore, but they still have a couple lying around. Maybe they could use a spare one and just, get some modeling, 3D modeling details from. Here are the MP36 sounds. The bell, same bell as the P42, pretty much the bells. They all use the same shit. And then you have the horn. So here's the horn here, specifically for MBTA. They use this horn. Then you have the exterior horn. I think this is the wrong one. Yep, that's just the same thing. So you would have the this bell right here for the exterior. That's how they sound on the MP36s. Next up, we have the Amtrak New Era DLC. So this is a Phase 7 refresh. They can add an updated P42, updated sounds, whatnot, textures. Phase 7 paint scheme right here. Phase 7 Amfleet 1s and Viewliner 2s. I don't know if the Amfleet 2s have the Phase 7, but if so, then they can include those as well. These can be layered over Boston, Worcester, Springfield, Worcester, Chicago Racetrack, Miami, West Palm Beach. You can run a lot of routes, Amtrak trains with these consists. yeah, it's pretty much it for this. I mean, it's just reskins, honestly. They can just reskin. They could recycle content if they want to, or they could make new content if they want to. So here's this DLC right here, $20 DLC. Yeah, that's how much locomotive DLCs pretty much go for Amtrak. Next up, we have the Amtrak long distance DLC. So these can be implemented on the Pacific Surfliner routes as well as the Chicago racetrack routes. You have the Dash 8 P32 BWH, as well as, which can reuse the same sounds as the P42 because they have the same prime movers, GE, whatnot. And the Superliner coaches, here are the Dash 8 sounds that I included here. That I just put these in here. My voice is hurting, y'all. I do a lot of damage. There's the exterior bell. Right there, it's GE bell. The engine is the same as the P42, same sounds. So you have the K5LA here for the Dash 8. Let's give it a second. There's your horn sample right there. Beautiful horn. And lastly here we have the Tri-Rail Commuter DLC. So it's just a locomotive add-on. They use the same rolling stock. It's just a GP49-3. It can be a combo $5 DLC right there. They can just add those on to the route. And yeah, that's pretty much it for US content. I was thinking of including Metra, you know, adding the MP36s or the F59 PHIs. I mean, that could be a, you know, another DLC. You can have the Amtrak F59 PHI as like a little $10 DLC or whatnot. They could just layer onto the Pacific Surfliner route. I'm gonna add that actually to the slides. That could be like a $5 DLC or whatnot. And they can maybe mix Superliners with the Pacific Surfliner cars as they do in real life. They can run the Dash 8, they can run the P42, the Charger, or the F59 PHI. So there it is, folks. There's my Train Sim World Future wish list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What else do you want to see in the game? I'm SimReacts. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.
I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right.